Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today I'm here to give you guys some more non-new release book recommendations. If you were not here for the start of this series, I decided to start giving you guys recommendations for books that are not new releases, so books that are not published within the last couple of years. Because I feel like these books kind of get left out after they've had their limelight, they've had their love, and then they get forgotten about. And I know that there's a ton of books out there that are easily accessible, or more easily accessible at least than new releases, that I just want you guys to read. Like the last video, I will separate this into 5 different genres. It won't always be this way, but I do have 5 separate genres for you today. The first will be fantasy, and then I have a horror/thriller for you guys, a sci-fi, a general fiction, and a non-fiction recommendation for you. I will put each of the genres into a timestamp so you guys can skip around to the ones that you are most interested in. We are going to start with the fantasy recommendation, which was published in 2014, at least the first book was, because this is a series, and that is The Invisible Library. If you've never heard of The Invisible Library, you follow a character named Irene, who is a librarian for The Invisible Library. And librarians of The Invisible Library have a couple of different tasks assigned to them. One is protecting the library itself, but 2 is also sometimes going out and obtaining artifacts to bring back to the safe haven of the library. The library is a safe haven for the pivotal works that make up certain dimensions. So the library is connected to a whole bunch of different worlds, a whole bunch of different universes, and it keeps safe the defining works of each of those dimensions. And also, the more artifacts the library contains, the more connected with that society or that world it becomes. So Irene starts out on a quest to obtain a document or obtain a book from a specific world, and that's where you start out the first book. In this world it's so vast and there's such potential for growth because of the fact we have so many different dimensions. So you're never going to be bored with this series at all. Irene is very funny, and she ends up being assigned an underling that she really doesn't want. And she also gets assigned to go to a world that is full of chaos, which is something typically librarians avoid. Chaos is something that fairies thrive in, and they are known to be very dangerous creatures. Within this series, you do have fairies, you have dragons, you have vampires, you have ghosts. There's a plethora of supernatural creatures for you guys to enjoy in this. And there's also a political system involved with dealing with each of these creatures and essentially keeping themselves safe while traveling to different dimensions. So if you haven't given The Invisible Library a chance and you are a fantasy reader, I would implore you to go and pick this up today because it is fantastic. The next genre I have for you guys is horror/thriller, and for this I have the music for you. This was published in 2019, and I read it last year. So you follow a main character in this who has a very traumatic past. As an infant, her entire family was brutally murdered by their father, and she's the only surviving member of her household. And she grows up, I believe her aunt raises her, and she's always had obviously trauma from losing her family. She also has some kind of unhinged and questionable things going on in her head that you are trying to piece together throughout the book. She decides when she is, I think she's 25, and her boyfriend are almost ready to kind of move in together, get married, kind of settle down, and she decides that she wants to purchase her childhood home because it comes up for sale. She wants to live in her childhood home. This is the home that her family was murdered in. No one has lived there since. And her boyfriend is like, no, this is not acceptable. But she decides to do it anyway. She wants to have some connection to her family. So she moves in. Some weird things start happening with her, and you also kind of follow her trying to unravel what happened to her family and why it happened. It is very creepy and odd. The entire time you are wondering whether or not there is something wrong with the main character. I'm not going to give you too many details because I don't want to give away any spoilers. And you are also trying to figure out, what happened in the past timeline. She also ends up talking to the police officer who investigated the original murders, and so that's kind of an added element. I really enjoyed this. I think it was a lot of fun, and now that I know what happens, I kind of want to reread it and see if my if I notice anything that I didn't notice the first time around. The next genre is sci-fi, and for this I chose The Past is Red, which was published in 2021. I did read this the year that it came out, so the details are a little fuzzy, but you follow in this a main character who lives on a garbage heap in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So this is a dystopian world in which the world has flooded. The only people who are still surviving are the people who are on boats or on these trash piles in the middle of the ocean. And this girl is one of them. And she is a very hopeful girl who loves her life and is really excited about living. And she lives with a whole bunch of people who are very angry at her and do not really enjoy her presence. And so you get to kind of experience her life in Garbage Town, which is what she calls it. And I kind of think that's all I'm going to tell you. Because it's such a short book, I don't want to spoil anything for you, and I kind of think it's best to go in blind. So I think that's all I'm going to say. The next genre I have for you guys is general fiction, and for this I'm choosing Ragged Company, which was published in 2008. For this book, you follow 5 homeless individuals who are stuck in the middle of a snowstorm and decide to take refuge in a movie theater. It is a lovely story of found family and of these individuals coming together to bond over their love of cinema, and even with their circumstances, how they can still enjoy life and enjoy each other's company. And it's just really heartwarming. It's also devastating. You get to learn about how all of these individuals became homeless and their circumstances now. I really enjoyed this book. The last genre I have for you guys is a nonfiction book, which probably doesn't need to be recommended, but I haven't heard anybody talking about it recently, and I just think it's excellent. And that is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This was published in 2016, and it is about the childhood of Trevor Noah growing up in South Africa as a mixed race child. This is his story of literally being born a crime, living in a country where mixed race families were illegal, and getting to see how his family, how himself, how life was living in this scenario, and how he coped. I really enjoyed this. This was one of the first nonfiction books I read while having a YouTube channel. I think that if you are not a nonfiction reader, I think this one is still very accessible because of the fact that Trevor Noah is a comedian. And so, yes, it covers some very heartbreaking and very bleak topics, but because of the fact that he is such an excellent writer and an excellent storyteller, he does it in such a way that he gets his point across. He definitely shows the darker moments, but he also does it with light. And it really helped me as far as I don't like to read books that bring me down mentally and keep me there. I want books to also bring me up, and I do think that this book accomplished that. I wish that more people would read it. Those are the 5 non-new release book recommendations that I have for you guys. I will be coming out with another episode soon. If you guys have your own non-new releases that you've really enjoyed recently, leave them in the comments down below. I would love to add to my TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.